From the beginning of time, the Blackfoot lived in teepees. The teepees were made from dried bison or elk hide and had a hole in the top so that fire smoke could be released. Typically, the woman prepared the hide by stretching it out, staking it in the ground, and letting it to dry out in the sun. Then the insides were scraped out. The Blackfoot would paint things on the teepees that symbolized beliefs or told stories. Fast forward to today, and the majority of Blackfoot and Indigenous people are on reserves. They're typically small, beaten-down homes with no power, clean water, or proper sewage. As you can see, they don't always have very nice clothing, and inside the houses are very small and dirty. For Blackfoot culture, you can see here that they took dyes from plants and berries to paint on dried hide. They also beaded symbols onto bags and clothes. They had a rich culture. Today, some Blackfoot people sell art for a living. They will make toys, sculptures, or paintings to teach people of their diverse history and culture. As for food, they would mostly cook bison meat and eat wild berries and plants. A very popular food that was made was pemmican. To prepare pemmican, they would crush up berries and mix it with dried bison meat and fat. This is a food that is sold and consumed today. Now, Blackfoot and the Indigenous community eat the same things as everyone else. They go out to restaurants and make the same meals that other people in other races do. Their clothing was made from animal hide to keep them warm in the winter. The woman would make the clothing and add beading that was suited for the owner of each piece. Nowadays, the Blackfoot wear modern-day clothes that everyone else has. A lot of them still have long hair, as that was a symbol of their culture and identity. A huge ceremony that was performed was the sun dance. The sun dance happened once a year, usually at the time of the summer solstice. It celebrates renewal, the spiritual rebirth of the participants of the tribe and their relatives, as well as the rebirth of the earth and all of its components. The sun dance includes dancing, singing traditional songs, and drumming. Now, a very popular dance is the jingle dance. It is performed by Indigenous women wearing bright dresses with rows of metal cones rattling and clinking as the dancers move. It's become very popular and can be a competitive dance. It's well known with other tribes throughout the country and holds a lot of Indigenous culture. Back in the day, no one powered anyone else. Everything was equal. Clans would drop themselves into 3 main tribes, and each were responsible for maintaining the boundaries of the nations. Now, everything is controlled by the Canadian government, but we are already making changes to fix the damage that has been done. On June 11, 2008, Stephen Harper made a statement of apology to former students of Indian residential schools on behalf of the Canadian government. Everyone in the tribe had an important job. The women would cook, make clothing, tan hides, and teach the children, while the men would hunt and protect the land. The men would also help teach children hunting skills. The children would play with toys made from animal scraps or spend time with adults and learning survival skills. The elders had a very important role of storytelling. They would tell creation stories, share wisdom, and give advice. Today, there is a lot of poverty and no one really has a role. This poverty can become extreme, leading to alcohol addiction, substance abuse, and violence. 33% of Indigenous adults are unemployed and 6 out of 10 Indigenous students drop out of school. This is a serious issue, and a lot of Indigenous people don't have roles and aren't contributing members of society. The Blackfoot were located in southern Alberta, southwestern Saskatchewan, and northern Montana, and for the most part still are to this day. Calgary is a city in southern Alberta. There are lots of things named after the Blackfoot names. For example, Blackfoot Trail and Deerfoot Trail are some major roads. Also, there is a town in the south called Okotoks, which comes from the Blackfoot word for rock. Before European settlement, they used this rock as a marker to find the river crossing in Okotoks. Now, there are some significant factors that have caused differences in all of these things. The only factor that's changed Blackfoot shelter is evolution. Simple as that. Humans have learned tons of new skills, and to go from this to this is nothing but evolving as a race. But residential schools have single-handedly been the biggest factor in stripping Indigenous people of their culture. Children were taken away from their parents, abused, had their long hair cut, and were forced to learn forced to learn Christianity and European way of life. They couldn't wear clothes that represented their culture and were punished for speaking their language. By the time they came out, most of them were so brainwashed they didn't have any respect for their family or culture. Residential schools took away thousands of kids' identities. Just look at the difference in these people. The main difference in governance for Blackfoot and all Indigenous people was the Canadian government. We had power and controlled what they did. This put a huge wedge between Indigenous people and everyone else in the country. We segregated ourselves from them. It seemed as if their race was holding on by a thread. But as time went on, the Canadian government and citizens lent a hand and began repairing what was broken so many years ago. So what will the Blackfoot and Indigenous community look like in 50 years? We could teach dances, activities, and language to students to help bring back diverse culture and teachings. Unemployment rates could drop, dropout rates would decrease, and they could have healthier living conditions. I think that if we all work together, there can be equality and peace. We can teach each other our unique cultures and ways of life. With work and dedication, 50 years from now, the Indigenous and Canada can unite as one.